It is a bright and early 6:32 on Thursday, September 30th. I am currently sitting at SFO. I've been here since 5 a.m. This is going to be the first leg of my flight to Korea, where I'll be spending the next couple of months. So that'll be fun. Super tired, got like 4 hours of sleep, if that, and I'm just waiting on the plane. It looks like the plane is actually here and that they're cleaning it and loading it. We're gonna board in about an hour, and this first part of the journey is going to be to Vancouver. I have a short layover in Vancouver and then off to Korea. It's been pretty hectic getting the negative COVID test and quarantining stuff and trying to make sure everything is in order for me to actually get there. I've been passing everything so far, so we'll see how the rest of this goes. Alright, I'll probably check back in once we're in Vancouver. I think the sound will be pretty horrific on the plane, so we'll see. Alright, and we are back on the plane. I totally forgot to film anything at Vancouver. The airport is actually quite lovely here. They have like an aquarium type deal and this whole nature area. I just ate some snacks that I brought with me, but they didn't really have any restaurants where I was going or at the gate that I was at. And then by the time I got to the gate that I was at, there was a check-in process that you had to go through, so I didn't want to leave and then have to come back and go through that whole thing again. But we're taking off in like 10 minutes here, so we'll probably check back in next when we're in Incheon. Should be good. All right, back in a moment. All right, very much Casey Neistat style again. I am currently in a bathroom on the plane to Incheon, and yeah, it's looking pretty good, I would say. I think we have about an hour left in the flight. I've just been having my noise-canceling headphones on for the most part. Watched a couple of movies, the King Kong vs. Godzilla, and I watched a Korean flick about creating a dictionary. I'll have to put the title up here, but there's not that much time left. Had to use the restroom, decided to come in here. I'm surprised to see that we're actually flying over land now, so we're literally over Korea. We'll be there soon. It's pretty nuts, but yeah, I think the next bit will be in Incheon. We had 3 meals. The first meal was like this spicy beef type dish. I want to say it was like bulgogi, but it wasn't really bulgogi. And then the second meal, or was midnight snack, was a tuna sandwich, which I'm not really big on, but I mean, I was hungry, so I ate it. And then finally, there was the last meal, which was pasta. It was like macaroni and cheese with the cream sauce. It was really nice. And yeah, it's been a really pleasant flight. Few little stints of turbulence, but other than that, not really anything to complain about. I guess I'll check back in once we get to Incheon Airport, see how long the wait's going to be there to get to quarantine. So, back in a moment. So, after entering the room, which I have the corner room, to the left immediately is a shower and bathroom, or toilet. It's pretty nice. There is a full body mirror right next to the door. And if we go the other way, there is a nice large mirror with kind of a vanity and a place, I think that's for shoes. Is this a closet? Oh, it is a closet. Nice. So there is a closet here. It's too dark. Maybe I'll try to film it again in the morning, but there's a closet in that corner right there. This I'll go over in a moment. This is dinner. It's 10 o'clock now, so it's getting pretty late. I should probably start getting on that. I have this little cubby hole deal where it looks like they took a few shelves out, and then, oh yeah, that's really dark for some reason. We have a water heater, some extra towels, trash bags, a ton of cups, 2 bottles of water. They said they're gonna give us like 5 bottles, like large bottles. And then yeah, they emptied out all the places where they would give you stuff. Yeah, and then there's an empty fridge. And then we go into the main room where there's a TV. There's your own router with a cable box. The room is sizable, so it's not bad. I think it's a queen size bed that I have here. It's just a single one. And then it goes to the bathroom right there and the door, which is over there. Not bad for somewhere that I'm going to have to spend 14 days in quarantine. They did give some rules and regs on what we're supposed to do, and I'm going to have to go over that, but they didn't really talk all too much about it, probably because it's 10 o'clock at night. The trip here was really crazy. Not what I was expecting. I thought we were going to just go across the street from Incheon Airport or something simple like that. You know, it was a real crazy type of intro. So I went over getting to the whole quarantine zone earlier, but now just to go over after arriving to the hotel. Like I said before, I had no idea where we're going. I believe we're in Suwon. I'll check Google Maps again, but we're at the Golden Tulip Hotel, which I know there's just a few quarantine hotels that you're allowed to use, and it's just a first come first serve. There's no real, I don't want to say legitimacy to how they select you for what, but you just get put into a room, and I'm happy with my room. I think this is great. This has everything I want in it. It would probably be even better if it had a microwave, but I mean, beggars and such, right? I think I'm gonna go ahead and crack into the food. Oh yeah, well, why don't we just do that together here? So again, I said earlier, they have a bag of goodies that they gave us when we got here. I am so tired. I want to get this at least started so I could have at least some food to eat. And then I'll go over what actually happened. So, okay. Got some ramen, canned coffee, some bread, honey apple chips. I hear these are excellent. I'm just gonna go out on a guess and say that this is a moon pie. Hopefully by the time I'm leaving this place, I'll actually have that memorized or able to be read. A smaller can of Coke. It's 250 ounces. So, set of chopsticks. I was going to bring silverware, but Lynn mentioned that they're going to throw it out regardless of if I use it or not, because they can't recycle these anyways, so I'll just use what they give me. Oh, some sort of cake, I think. Like, I'm not, not 100% sure what this is, but we'll see that in a moment once I crack it open. And then more cake. There's a lot of dessert in here. I guess they were planning for us on coming late. Oh, another one of these moon pies. I probably won't eat both of them tonight. Oh, that's cool. Butter cookies. Danish butter cookies, I think it says. And then, is there anything else? Second set of these butter cookies. I think that's it, yeah. And then the bag is empty. So, I'm going to go ahead and get some water boiling so that I could eat my dinner ramen here. Okay. So, I don't know how much water I actually need, but over in this section I do have a water boiler. So let's go ahead and pop that open. Yeah, looks clean. Probably just rinse that out real quick. I'll come right back as soon as I get the water going, and then as soon as the water is starting to boil, I'll start on some of the snacks and I'll tell the story time of how I actually got here, or actually what happened after I got here to the hotel. So I'll check back in a moment. Alright, so story time. Things have changed around a little bit. I also found out that the part that I thought I filmed was not a film, it was a photo. So I have a photo of myself talking to myself at the quarantine zone. But yeah, so things changed. I decided to take a shower first. I've already made the instant noodles, so the cup noodles is right here. But so let's go back to Incheon Airport and me arriving. We arrived on time, so it was about 4:05-ish when we landed, and during the bathroom portion of this vlog, when I was vlogging in the bathroom rather than talking to myself, right? That was when they're handing out forms for the arrival items, where you need to have like all those items filled out, like your address in Korea, what your passport number is, and yada yada yada. I didn't know if I needed to fill that out or not. I remembered the main site for the travel ministry, I think it is, or tourism ministry here in Korea, because I did the K-ETA visa, I think that's what it is. I'm not 100% sure. I know I have it written down here somewhere, but I can't be bothered at the moment. So I had to kind of get the attention of one of the air directors, I think is what they're called now, and I had to flag her down and get her to get me the English copy so I could kind of write it all down. This was probably about an hour before the flight. I think that's what I said in the bathroom of the airplane as well, is like we have about an hour left of flying. So it took about half an hour for me to get it, and by the time I got it, I wasn't going to be bothered to get my pen out of my backpack, which was just out of reach from me, and we were pretty much getting ready to land. So we land, everything is smooth, the flight is great, the food is decent, as I said before, and then I get to the airport and I walk very slowly all the way from our gate all the way down to the first checkpoints of the quarantine. And the reason I walked really slowly is because a ton of other vloggers got like pulled aside or something like that. People that came here, they got pulled aside because their body temp was too high. I was already sweating. Like, it was hotter than I anticipated. I had a long coat on as well as a sweatshirt underneath it. That did me no favors. When I got to the checkpoint, I'm like, oh, I still need to fill out this paperwork. I think I do. And I pulled aside and filled out the paperwork to go give to the next station. Now, that just gave me more time to kind of just cool down. I had both my coats off. It was quite the hassle trying to carry everything, coats and backpack and carry-on case. And I get into the line, and it looks different than what I saw on the other vlogs, and if I have footage or a photo of it, I'll put it up. They told me to go to the right. I went to the right, and then like, oh, too far right, go to the center. I'm like, okay. So there was 4 lanes. They said take the right lane, which if you imagine the lanes numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4 from the right, you would take lane 1. They actually wanted me to take lane 2. So I took lane 1. They ran down, grabbed me, and said, go into lane 2. I go into lane 2, walk all the way down, and notice that it's just like a cluster of people in front of me. And when I got there at the very beginning, it was slammed. Like, there was so many people all over the place. After I finished the paperwork that I had to fill out and I got up, there was maybe about 20 people there, 20 folks. It was busy. It was a lot busier than I thought Korea was going to be. My plane was a lot busier than I thought Korea was going to be. I mean, I have footage here of when we were exiting the plane. It's packed. I'm so used to seeing, I guess everyone else flies Korea Air, right? Where it's like there's no one in the plane. It's like every other row is empty. But I literally had a guy sitting not directly next to me, but the seat over. Anyhow, I get to the first health check point, and I have my paperwork, and I hand him everything I have. My COVID PCR test, my passport, my declaration of like whatever. I have like 0 things to declare. I have the declaration that I'm willing to go into quarantine, the traveler health declaration, the traveler declaration. There's all this paperwork. And I hand it all to him, and the first thing he does is he reaches for my wrist, and I hand it up like this, and he takes my temperature, and I'm at 36.1, which was fine by him. He writes the temp down on my piece of paper, pass. And then he looks and he goes, okay, and he marks everything down. He looks at my COVID test, everything passes, and then he then goes, okay, so you're gonna quarantine at this Airbnb that you've written down. I'm like, oh no, that's for after quarantine. I need a quarantine hotel. And the guy's like, you don't qualify for a quarantine hotel. You're staying here too long. What? No one told me that. Like, what do you mean I'm staying? What? And I'm like, no, I need a quarantine hotel. I don't have a Airbnb booked from today to 2 weeks from today. The Airbnb that I have is on the 15th of this month. There's no way that, like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I guess I could have really, I had my phone, which with my Korean phone number on it, unlimited data, so that I could have gone on to Airbnb real quick and found a quarantine Airbnb, although I think that would have made my life a whole hell of a lot harder because I wasn't planning on doing that. And I just was like, wait, I really need this hotel quarantine. It was all planned out, budgeted, everything. And he was like, I don't know if we could do that for you. And he turns around to his coworker, and they're talking together in Korean, so I don't know what they're saying. And she's just like, let him. She had to have just. It was so nonchalantly spoken. The way it was just so easily like, let him just go to the quarantine hotel. Whatever, it's fine. And that was like, okay, so you're gonna go to the quarantine hotel. Okay, I guess he starts marking all these things off on my piece of paper. He like crosses the address I put down, writes something else down on it. I think it says quarantine hotel. It's very clearly stated on their website, the Korean Travel Bureau website or whatever, the ministry, that any foreigner who's coming in needs to stay at a quarantine hotel. So I was like, I'm shocked. I didn't know that the amount of time. I'm staying here for 62 days. Maybe that has something to do with it. No one else that I watched was staying here for that long. I think the longest I saw was like a month, really. And so that being said, he just stamps my thing and he goes, okay, you're going to take all this paperwork and go down and make a left turn. And this is just where like it's in every other quarantine vlog video after that part. I walk down, make the left turn, walk all the way down the hall. There's a checkpoint where they're going to ask you to download the quarantine app, which I already had downloaded. I actually had both of them downloaded because you're going to have to delete it and reinstall a different one once you get to the hotel, which I had to re-download it because they deleted it at the airport. They do the phone number check, they do the address check, they type in all this information into your app. You have to go through this whole kind of process to make sure everything is working, and then you go over to immigration. Mind you, at this time, I have all my paperwork with me still, and I was like, in all the videos that I've ever seen, I was told they just keep the paperwork. Well, nobody really kept the paperwork here. I think the first guy, he gave me back all my paperwork, and so I just carried it to the next station where they check the app. And the app guy, he did keep one of the COVID tests that I printed out. I printed out 5 copies just in case, and they're like 9 pages each, so that's a lot of paperwork, and paper is heavy, so I gladly gave it up to him. After him, I went to the next station where it was just immigration. They're asking me, am I okay with staying at a quarantine hotel? How long am I staying here for? Do I know anybody or have any family here? Do I have money, pretty much, in order to stay in a quarantine hotel? Pretty much yes to almost all those questions. 62 days. Yes, I know I have friends in Korea. And then it was the funny thing is just like a lot of the other vloggers, they walk you to a door and just say, have a nice trip, and they close the door behind you, and you're just in a hall all of a sudden. Like, literally just a random hall, but it's the hall that you would normally be in if you went through immigration in the normal way before COVID, and you would just go down into the luggage checking area or the luggage retrieval area. And that's what I did. I grabbed my 2 suitcases, grabbed a cart, put my 2 suitcases, my backpack, and my carry-on luggage on that cart, and walked over to the final place, which is really customs, where they ask you if there's anything to declare. That was one of the pieces of paperwork that I'm glad I did fill out, because I just handed it to him and said, nope, nothing to declare. He just passed me through. I walked out and into the main kind of arrivals hall that people could get picked up at Incheon Airport, where another gentleman came up and asked to see my passport to see if I had a sticker on it. They just asked to see that sticker there. And then they just led me off to another kind of side. They just said, okay, go sit over in this quarantine area. And I'm like, okay, fine, fair enough. And while I was sitting there, just to interrupt, I'm just going to go ahead and try this. So this is a snack ramen, apparently. Maybe rice flavor? I actually don't know. I can't read it, so I actually don't know what it is, but I'm hungry and it is getting late. Oh, hunger is the spice of life, but this is delicious. Oh yeah, it's just so good. Anyhow, he leads me to this corner where I'm kind of sitting there, and I realize I need to go grab my internet egg, as they're called over here. It's one of those mobile Wi-Fi or MiFis or MiFis or however you call it. I just walked to an older Korean gentleman and asked him if he would look after my 2 suitcases and the carry-on while I go to grab my internet. He was very kind, said he would. Told him I'd be right back. It's not like I could go anywhere anyways. Walked over to the exit where I got stopped by a gentleman. Oh, I totally forgot. At the point of the customs agent, or the, not customs, immigration agent, the one that left me out in the hall, she handed me a necklace that I had to wear. No, I'm remembering that wrong. I apologize. The guy that checked my passport for this sticker, when I came out into the main arrivals hall, passed me a necklace that was this red card that said Incheon Airport on it multiple times. I have a photo of it. I'll pop it up here. That was before he told me to go sit in the quarantine zone. When I was going to exit the quarantine zone into the main part of the arrivals hall, I got stopped. And the gentleman there that stopped me was like, where are you going? What are you doing? I said, oh, I need to go pick up my internet and or mobile phone stuff at that booth right behind you. And it literally was right behind him. And so he's like, okay, where's your luggage? And I pointed to the old gentleman, and I'm like, he's looking at it for me, like, just over there. And he saw that I had the suitcases, and he's like, okay, perfect, go right ahead. And so I went over, got my internet, which, really cool. I'll put this back on. I think it's totally worth it, in my opinion. I got 62 days of unlimited internet, which I already was using, and it was like $100 for the 62 days. Expensive, I don't know, but they did give me a free T-Money card, which I think these things are $5 just to purchase, and then you could put money on top of that. I'm not 100% sure on how that works, but Everett told me that I need to get a T-Money card anyways. So here's my T-Money card. It is just like any Metro RFID card that you use, like Japan's Passmo or Ikoka card, and I was gonna need it for Seoul anyways, so instead of having to buy one, I could just top this one off now, which that was really cool. Shout out to them for making that happen. They didn't have to, and they did, so real cool. That took a moment to get though, because a lot of these checkpoints and a lot of these places, I was just surrounded by very angry people, and I don't know what these people were thinking that they were going to get out of being angry with the customs agent or the immigration agent. They started off in their own language, or sometimes it was even Korean. They're pretty angry. And me, I'm just like, I come up, I say hello, or, you know, my best Anya Haseo. You know, it's. I understand I'm butchering the language, but I want to give it a shot. I want to try. And I hand them all the paperwork, and they start speaking, and I say, I'm sorry, can you say that in English, just so I understand? And, you know, I tried bione, I think is how you say sorry in Korean, and just English, you know, and they were very kind, and they really tried to explain how things happened. The only incident being that dude that did not want to give me this quarantine hotel, he's like, no, just get an Airbnb. I think he was trying to do me a solid, but at the same time, I kind of wonder what would have happened at the later stages if I just kept walking on and going like, yeah, I have an Airbnb. At the cell phone place, there was this really angry Korean girl, and she was just like yelling at the lady behind the counter. I'm like, I don't know. And the lady behind the counter actually provided her a phone to call someone to try to get service. I have no idea what was going on. It was all in Korean. Clearly this girl was really angry, and the other girl, or the lady behind the desk, she didn't know what to do. She couldn't do anything for her. So it was like one of those just like, oh man, that's a horrible situation. I'm sorry you're in it. Me, I was just like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm here to pick up my internet. My name is this. And I was looking on my phone for the confirmation number and couldn't find it. But luckily I printed that out. So I was able to just pull out that paperwork, hand it to her, and then 5 minutes later, I'm done and good to go. And, you know, I'm just grateful that she was able to kind of break away from the angry girl who was on the phone when the angry girl was on the phone to help me out, because I was waiting behind that angry girl. And mine was just she grabbed some stuff, scanned it, had me sign a few pieces of paper. Gave her my credit card so that she could hold, you know, they put that hold against you just in case you decide to try to steal their internet. Got that, went back to the quarantine zone, sat there for quite a while. Like I said, we landed around 4:05. At about 6 o'clock is when they took me from that first quarantine zone where I got the card to another area, another quarantine zone where we had to line up in accordance to the color of the card. Again, lots of people there, tons. And when I got to my thing, I had to hand them all my paperwork. Again, I was also thinking that they were going to take the paperwork from me, so I was going to have to keep pulling out from my backpack. No one took any of the paperwork. They just looked at it, marked it, gave it back. And so it was kind of an easy, like, back and forth. I just tucked everything back in my passport, handed it to them. They would look at everything, put it back in the passport, hand it back, and I would just take it and just keep going the next guy. And at this quarantine zone, they're like, okay, follow the red line on the ground. And on the ground there was yellow, black line, a red line, and a red line. And on one of the red lines it said semen, and I had no idea what they were talking about, so I just said the red line to the left, and they nodded. So I walked over to the red line that said semen on it, and I think it meant like people that were probably going to be coming or going off a boat or something like that. Anyhow, I wait there for about an hour with the rest of the rough looking guys that were there, and they stand us all up and they take us out to the bus that's supposed to take us here. And then they check, like, I load up, all my suitcases are on the bus, I'm loading into the bus, and then they come through and they check our names off their list, and I'm like, oh, my name's not on that list. And then they're like, are you a seaman? I'm like, no, not that I know of. I mean, am I supposed to be? So they're like, wait, what bus were you supposed to be on? I don't know, I thought this was the one for me. And so they had this whole thing where I then had to go back and grab all my suitcases, go back to the red line that I was standing in because of the card that I had, which I already gave them back. So you give them back the card once you go and talk to the guy. You know, you hand all the paperwork and then you hand him the red card that you have hanging around your neck, and he writes your name down on a clipboard. Well, my name was still on the clipboard that was in front of him, and it's funny because these guys are all cops. They're all police officers. And they were running around trying to figure out what bus I was supposed to be on, where I was supposed to go. They take photos of all the checklists. And I'm like, I was trying to say, you know, it's like, again, I suck because I don't speak the language. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure the guy that's sitting at the desk over there still has the clipboard with my name on it. And I kept trying to tell people that, but no one understood me. Not that it's their fault. But finally, one guy, like, you know, I kind of like was pointing at the guy at the desk. I was like, talked to him, and he was like, okay, and he walked over and looked at the list, and he saw my name. It was like the first name on that list, and he's like, oh, okay, you need to wait in this other red line, which I was like, okay, pushed my cart over there, and I started waiting in that. So I almost got shipped off to the wrong quarantine hotel after almost not being able to go to a quarantine hotel. And then finally, an hour later, it's about 8 o'clock, they are like, okay, everybody in this red line, stand up. We're bringing you into your hotel. Like I said, it's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're getting. I was just assuming that we were going to get the hotel that was right across the street from the airport. That's the one I was hoping for. That's the closest one. But it was 8 o'clock, and we all loaded up onto this bus, and then we started driving. And I'm like, okay, definitely not the Incheon Airport Hyatt hotel or whatnot, and we kept driving, and I'm like looking around, and I bust out my phone and I tap on the old Naver maps there, and I noticed that we're not going towards Incheon, we're not even going towards Seoul. We're headed south, and I'm like, where are we going? Like, how far is this going to take us? Truth be told, quite far. An hour later at 9 o'clock, we ended up on the far side of a town. I believe it's called Suwon. I think we're a little actually outside of it. We're right next to Samsung Everland theme park, which I actually heard one of the vloggers that I was watching for research on Korea. She actually stayed at this hotel as well. I think the view out the window over here is over in that area is the theme park. Now I do have a corner room, so maybe I'll have some better views. I was wishing that this wall behind me was a window, but unfortunately no go. It's padded. Yeah. But it's we'll see in the morning a better view of outside. But we got downstairs where I then had to re-download that app that I was telling you about. They didn't make me actually delete the other app. I just had to download their app. So I downloaded their app, and then I went and paid, took another COVID test, which this was super different. It's funny because I did 3 in the United States, and not once did I ever have to open my mouth for a COVID test. So they had me open my mouth, they scrubbed the inside of my mouth, and then they stuck it way up my nose, like scratching the back of your brain type of deal. And then they're like, okay, go up to your room, and handed me the bag of snacks, which I showed earlier. And here I am in the room eating and getting ready for bed, really. I'm going to call that the end of this day. This has been a crazy 16-hour journey from San Francisco all the way here to, I'm just going to say Suwon, Korea. And hopefully at the end of this quarantine, they'll drop me off at Seoul, because I think I'm actually quite far away. But anyhow, have a good night, and I'll see you in the next video.